Betcast.
The Betcast Picks of the Week.
All right. I got Redcast Rob and Boomer, and this is kind of the Betcast crew. Producer Skip also obviously will assist this year in ways, but resting beef. What the fuck is that? I don't understand.
You can follow up on the comments later, Dave.
Yes,
please.
Honky and Mac are big on betting, so I get it. So we're going to focus this segment on the Betcast, and let's bring up that Betcast Pick'em graphic again, just to make sure everybody knows that we have the Yahoo Fantasy College Football Pick'em. It's alive right now. Go ahead and join. Hopefully, there's more names than myself and producer Skip on there. They go Big Redcast Bets. Group ID is 5209. That is the group ID that you really need to have. That's more important than the name itself. So 5209, and password is Betcast. So guys, we'll have a little preview segment every Redcast, typically on Mondays or sometimes Tuesdays. We'll break down how we did the last week and talk about some of the games we're looking forward to in the next week, and then we'll make sure that we get our picks in for a social media blast by Friday, and obviously we'll follow this pick'em quite closely. Week 0 games obviously are out there already, and there's been a lot of betting action on the season win totals. I don't know if you guys have any bold predictions. I can run through some of my season win totals that I've picked out in our week 0 games. Rob, where do you want to start?
I mean, why don't we just start with Nebraska and Northwestern?
All right.
Let's just jump right at it.
It started at, I think, 12 or 12 and a half. I think I've seen it creep up all the way up to 13 and a half or so. Boomer, you might well bring up those numbers. I think the over-under had been around 49 and a half, but it's already creeped up to 50 and a half now, and I think we'll continue to move in that direction. I think if you like Nebraska, you want to grab them right now before it gets to over 2 touchdowns. It's a big spread. Obviously, we beat them by a lot more than that last year. I think the spread was 11 last year, though. I don't know, Rob. I'm not going to take Nebraska to cover that. I think they could do it, but I think the better bet might be the over at 49 and a half or 50, because I do think that defenses will be a step slow, and I think there's going to be points scored on Saturday night.
Do you think Northwestern will score enough points to put that over if Nebraska's not going to cover that spread?
They're going to score at their high end.
Which is what? Double digits, maybe?
About 20.
Okay.
20 plus or minus a point or so. I'd see 17 to 21 might be where I'd see Northwestern, and I think we'll drop more than 30. So that's where I think you can get over that 50 mark. I think Northwestern's just not that good. Will we beat them by 2 touchdowns? I don't know. I mean, I could see a 33 to 20. I could see a 35-21, and if you don't get your bet in early on that spread and you get it at 14 or 14 and a half, you're going to lose that game. I think the over is just a little safer play is my take.
I actually agree with you on that one too, Dave, because that 12 and a half only scares me in that if Fitzgerald is successful at slowing the game down, while I don't think their offense is going to be good enough to generate the points like you said, they will take points off the board for us by just not allowing us to have the ball, right? So, and then they hold us to it. Yeah. And exactly. And again, and even if they hold us to a couple of field goals over there, some of the comments tonight I've seen too, with the field being grass and the weather being, I think it's supposed to rain at some point this week out there. So the field could be a little bit slower.
It rains in Dublin like every day.
Yeah, I know. So, but it's supposed to rain a little bit more than usual, I guess, on Friday. So the night before the game. So,
well, I mean, you can get into conspiracy theory stuff. I mean, let's put that into context. Northwestern is notorious for letting their grass grow in Evanston, and not mowing it and having it being very long. Unless
I don't mow my lawn either, Dave. So
right.
Yeah,
Unless
I mow mine every 2 weeks.
His Irish connections there, and is making sure that the folks at the stadium are making sure that grass is extra long. It won't be as bad as it is in Northwestern every year. So
yeah, I mean, and that's my point though, is that I think that the game's going to be slowed down a little bit over there, and also because it's the first game of the year, and it's against a Big Ten opponent. It is going to be what it is, which is a Big Ten game, and so I do think that you're right where I would take the over on the points, but I don't. That 12.5 is a scary spread only in that regard.
Yeah. Boomer, I think you showed Vegas Jeremy Brandt. He had 28-10 as his prediction. He's taking the under. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would lean more towards the under on that for all the reasons you've touched on. Northwestern's going to try to slow the game down and may be able to do it slightly. And if the weather is kind of a little slick and slippery, it may slow things down. And it's the first game for our offense too. They're going to be trying things. I would anticipate Nebraska to be trying to establish that run and just kind of keep the game going slowly. So I would probably, if I was going to bet on this game, I'd probably push towards the under. I don't think Northwestern's going to score a lot. So, they're not going to have a huge outpouring of offense. So it just depends on what Nebraska does. And I think 28-ish is probably a fair guess to what Nebraska's going to do, somewhere in the 20s to upper 20s to low 30s. I think just based on first game of the year and just kind of taking your time. I don't think Northwestern's going to score a lot. Yeah. They haven't for a year now, and I don't see them improving this year a whole lot.
Yeah, even on their good teams, they don't score that many points.
So. No, they don't. So yeah, I would lean towards the under if I was going to bet on this one. So.
Yeah, and I have not placed this bet. I don't know if I will. I do have a bet. Out there already. I have Vanderbilt covering against Hawaii late on Saturday night. I think I got it at 6.5. Hawaii, I think, is going to be a bit of a hot mess out there, and we'll see if Vandy can actually cover a touchdown. Another one that I think it follows Nebraska on Saturday is Illinois versus Wyoming. And,
I was going to bring that one up. It's another Big Ten week 0. I mean, Illinois was able to pull that off last year. Week 0. They lost a lot. I mean, they had a bunch of 12th year seniors or whatever it was, thanks to COVID and everything.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect out of Illinois this season. So,
I mean, I got, some people are the Big Ten West is just this crapshoot, right? You have some people are really high on Illinois and think they're going to do well, not win the division well, but definitely think they could get to a bowl. And others are like, yeah, there might be a step back this year. I think it's really interesting. The Bielema approach to coaching games, they're going to usually turn it into a rock fight too, right? But they have a quarterback, Tommy DeVito, I believe. He's a Syracuse transfer. Not bad at Syracuse. He has some potential there, so that might be an upgrade at that position. They have Chance Brown and at running back. They have some talent there. And then with Bielema, last year, comes in week 0, lots of time to prepare for Nebraska, pulls off the upset. Illinois only wins 4 games last year. They lost at UTSA, for goodness sakes, right? What was one of the other big wins, though? Penn State.
They beat Penn State. Didn't they beat Minnesota as well? I mean,
in Minnesota. At least one of those was after a bye week. So I think Bielema is pretty good when he gets some extra time to prepare and scheme against a defense. And so and Wyoming's been decimated. Craig Bull has lost most of his talent.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys have left.
They have 8 starters coming back from last year. So very little. So
they had one more yard a game than they, on offense, and they gave up on defense too. I think it was like 370.
And they will be down from last year.
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about altitude playing a role here, as Honky likes to note, and whenever Wyoming's involved. So.
That's right. So I do think Illinois will cover whatever that spread is right now. I think it's anybody have that number handy?
Currently 11, or you can get 10.5 on FanDuel, but otherwise 11 on the other sites. So,
I like that number.
Altitude, yeah. I mean, Dave lives in the Mile High City. We know these things.
That's right.
Go for a run and see how you last out here.
So I don't have much else on week 0 games. It is fun to put a little money on games that you may not be paying attention to.
You're not taking the Vanderbilt at Hawaii game, Dave.
I've mentioned it already.
I'm joking. I'm taking
Vanderbilt. I got Vanderbilt at 6.5. Another one that's early is Nevada playing early?
They are. They're playing New Mexico State, so that's probably a game where I would take Nevada too.
And so that's an interesting one. What's the spread on that right now, Rob?
Oh man,
21.
I'm just looking at. I'm looking at the schedule. Yeah, it's high. It is really high. But
yeah,
New Mexico State's not a good team. I mean, they're
but take a pause there. I mean, Nevada lost their coach. Jay Norvell now is at Colorado State. He took most of his best players with him. Nevada's a big hot mess. They could be a really bad team this year. I like taking New Mexico State to cover a big number there.
That's fair.
Week 0.
That's fair. I don't know what the spread is in week 0, and there's not a whole lot. I mean, they have stuff out there, but it's. I mean, again, I won't be betting.
The spread
this
isn't a lot, really. Right now, it's Nevada, but you can get them anywhere from -8.5 to 9.5. So
there you go. Yeah, I still think I'd take that.
It's there you go. Yeah, and Vanderbilt's like one of those teams. A lot of people are kind of high on, not to win a ton of games in the SEC, but it's supposed to be a better team this year, right? Than what they've been.
I guess if you believe in Clark Lee, I don't know. I mean,
I'm just talking about some articles here and there that I read about him. I don't really care that much about Vanderbilt, to be honest with you, but Well,
let's talk about some other teams that are worth maybe being high on in the season win totals. And you're talking about Vanderbilt. Another one that we've often talked about on the Betcast is Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got Kansas at
what's their win total right now?
2.5. 2.5.
So we need Kansas to win 3.
That is correct. Look at their schedule, Boomer.
I'm pulling it up as we speak, so that's always a crapshoot with Kansas.
They've got Duke, which I think
has been slumping. Yeah,
Duke has got a coaching change and in a transition.
Tennessee Tech. All right, they should beat Tennessee Tech.
Houston should beat Tennessee Tech.
Houston would probably be a loss, but you get 2 wins in non-conference. If they can beat Duke, can Kansas win 1 game in the Big 12? They won one last year. They beat Texas.
They did.
They did. They're usually good for that one weird upset in the Big 12.
They are, and I do think.
And they got Texas at home this year.
Lance Leipold is a good coach. I think.
Yeah, you got Oklahoma in a weird scenario. I don't know what Iowa State's going to be like.
I mean,
oh boy. That Duke game is so key on that. If you think they can beat Duke, I think you throw some money down on the over and just to see what happens.
Who knows? I mean, if they can keep it within 1 score against Kansas State at the end of the year, then there's a good chance that they win that game, since we know how their quarterback is in 1-score games.
Ooh, that's cool. Low blow. All right. Well, let me run through some of these other win totals that I've got money on, and I'll start with a similar program to Kansas right now, Arizona. Who I think had 1 win last year, but I took them over 3. Jed Fish down there, I think, is doing a good job, and I think they can get over 3. So that's another one of those really low numbers that seems to be for the taking if you're interested. I did take Illinois over 4.5. That's a really low number for Illinois, and I think it's out there for them. Heck, they had 4 last year. So,
what 5 do you think they're going to win, Dave?
What's their non-conference?
Their non-conference is Wyoming and Virginia and Tennessee Chattanooga.
I think those are all 3 wins potentially. Virginia going through a coaching change, and what was the other one? Tennessee Tech or something?
Chattanooga.
UT. We played the Moccasins. We know those guys. And so they just need 2 wins in conference.
Yeah. And they play their conference games are Indiana, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, Michigan State, Purdue.
Indiana. There's a win
right there. There's Indiana, so that should be a win. So yeah. Well, that actually might not be a bad pick, Dave.
And they play Northwestern in the last game of the season. So that could be your 5th win. Yep. And they also play Purdue, and nobody knows. Purdue's that one team. Nobody knows. They could win the West and they could finish last in the West. That's what
I'll be shocked if they win the West. I will just say that right now.
I will too. But I'm just saying. I'm going off of what the pundits are saying, because I know that Dave likes to read those. Since
we're in the Big Ten, other Big Ten season win totals I have, I did take the over on Michigan at 9.5. Michigan's schedule sets up relatively well. I think everything coming out of the Michigan camp, everybody thinks they're going to be pretty good. And I think they could get to that Ohio State game, maybe only looking at one loss at that point at worst. And so I like Michigan over 9.5.
Well, yeah, because that one loss is going to be to Nebraska, right?
Could be, I suppose. I'm not going to bet on that one right now.
I mean, we were one fumble away from beating them last year.
And, it's kind of interesting. It depends on how you like to play these season totals because your money's out there for a long time. But sometimes they'll give you a number that's just too easy to take, even though you're not going to make a lot of profit on it. Ohio State, there's sites out there with over 10.5. Yeah. And I'm like, they're not going to lose more than one game. They could lose a game, but they're not going to lose two. So I feel pretty good with Ohio State over 10.5. Same thing with Alabama. They're just giving me money on 10.5.
Betting the over on the season with Alabama and betting the over on the first half with Alabama, right?
Yes, that is a system bet.
That's a system bet for Dave, and I started using it last year at the end of the year and pretty much made all my money back that I had lost throughout the year just on that bet alone. I think at one point I was like, you know what? I'm so down. I think I took everything that was in my bank, put it on Alabama to cover the first half or like be over in the first half and doubled my money right there. And I was like, okay,
there you go.
Yeah.
Two more just of interest. Future Big Ten brethren, USC. I took under 9.5. I think they got too much going on there. That's a big number. I mean, you're telling me USC is going to go 10-2. I totally see 9-3, maybe 8-4, definitely 10-2.
I mean, Lincoln Riley's good, but he's not like what 10 win, 11 win good. I don't see that.
I think he could be very soon.
Yeah, but I'm talking this year. I'm talking this
exactly.
year, right? Like,
did take Utah over 9. At worst, that's a push in my opinion. And then here's the fun one. So I know, Rob, you think Nebraska is going to go 15 or no. I don't think that's going to happen. But the win total there's 7.5. I've been on record saying I think I'd be happy with just getting to a bowl. I do think 7-5 is probably more likely than 6-6. I think that's my season prediction is 7-5, but that's an under. But a lot of folks are very bullish on Nebraska to get over that 7.5. Whether you're a Nebraska fan that just bleeds red, or you look at the metrics and say that they actually should be favored in most of their games this year. But actually, I think the better bet, like just from a money standpoint, because if you think Nebraska is going to win 8-9 games, keep in mind you've got Wisconsin and Iowa as your last two games. You can get Nebraska on the division winner at plus 360, plus 350 on all the sites right now. If you think they're going to be 8-2 going into those last two games, take that bet over the over, which doesn't pay you that well, pays a third of that. And if Nebraska is in that position by the end of the year, you hedge your bet and go ahead and just take Wisconsin or Iowa on the money line, and you'll get your money back. Or Nebraska wins, and you can tell everybody that you took them to win the division at the beginning. Of the season.
And the reason why that's actually not a horrible idea, Dave, too, is that Wisconsin and Iowa both have extremely difficult conference schedules this year, right? They're getting the poop end of the stick when it comes to who they're playing in their cross rival games, whatever we call it. So cross division games. So, there's a good chance. Sip did a great segment on it like a week ago talking about that, where he broke down, he said, okay, now everyone's talking about Nebraska, but let's look at the schedule of the other teams, of the people that they, need to beat out for the division. And that was right. And he took a look at it and went through their schedule, and Iowa and Wisconsin. I mean, their schedules may not be that great by the time we meet them, and that could be a good chance for us to beat them in those games as well. So
but my point is that you can just hedge your bet at that point. Yeah. If you really think Nebraska is going to win that many games, they're going to win the early games, right? It's a backloaded schedule, and the Boomer's point for months now is if Nebraska doesn't win a lot of these early games, that spells trouble. So if you're in the camp of they're going to win a lot of early games, and you're a little unsure about the back end, take that division bet, and then you could hedge against it if you need to.
I like those, Dave. So
yeah.
I don't have a lot early on this year. I think if I'm going to be betting anything, at least week 0, UConn is playing at Utah State. UConn is just a complete dumpster fire.
That's true.
As a program. I mean, you can get a 26-point spread, but I think Utah State's going to cover that. So I think that's if you want something week 0, just have some fun with, just to kind of add a little excitement,
spice things up a little bit.
Yeah, just have fun with it.
Sweating out the Utah State game.
Exactly. And then for an over/under, earlier you could snag it at Indiana. Their over/under was 4.5. I don't see them winning 5 games. I have no idea where you're going to find 5 wins in Indiana's schedule. I
agree.
They play Idaho and Western Kentucky. Maybe they can win those. And Cincinnati is their other non-con. I have no faith against them against Cincinnati. So and crossovers are not in their favor. So I think that'd be an easy one to bet the under on. So if you can find 5 wins in that schedule, good luck. But
I like it.
Yeah, Indiana's an easy one. So.
All right, guys. Well, that's a good little preview of what folks could look forward to on future Betcast segments. Information again on the pick'ems down on the bottom of the screen. I already gave my prediction 7-5. Maybe we can give our predictions here and get some parting shots and get out of here. Sound good? Rob, you want a prediction and a parting shot?
I'll just give a parting shot and just say we'd like to thank all of Redcast Nation. I think I can call them that. For just everything that you guys have done to contribute to our shows in the off season here as we're leading up to week 0, because without you guys, we would have no reason to be doing the show. And tonight was a great example. At one point I think we had almost 80 people watching the show live at one time. And you guys have been showing up in droves for the entire off season. It just goes to show how great Husker fans are in general. So thank you to all of you. And, cheers to winning the first game of our 15-0 season coming up here on Saturday.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Boomer, get us out of here.
Okay, well, I don't necessarily have a season prediction. I just say if we don't go 8-4, it'll be kind of pretty depressing. That I'd expect that in year 5 and with the schedule we have in front of us. I've covered this many times. Just with the talent we have with the schedule we play, and we've got a runway that B-52s would be jealous of. If you're not 8-4 this season, there's issues. And then my other parting shot would be, I know football, volleyball season's kicking off, but there's lots of other Husker sports that start playing this year too. There's soccer going on, there's cross country, all sorts of things. So that'd be something fun I'd suggest for any of the Redcaster listeners out here. Just go out and try some of the other sports that are out there that the Huskers play. There's lots of student athletes that would love to have fans show up. A lot of those games are free or very cheap to get into. And it's a great time to have. You can go during the week, go on a, Sunday when nothing else is going on. So just go out and support Husker sports in general. So it's a great time and good time had by all. And I know the players would appreciate it. So.
Absolutely. Thanks, Boomer. It's great. All right, guys. Good show. I thought it was a really good banner there with Honky and Mac. And I think the Betcast was a nice way to cap it off. For now, let's call that a Go Big Redcast.
Go Big Red.
A Huda Media Production.